Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are stepping into something that is quite literally epic. We're going on a journey back to one of the most powerful, foundational historical accounts ever recorded, the Great Flood, and the story of Prophet Noah, or Nuh, as he's known in the Islamic tradition. Picture this. We're talking about an era of massive scale. Huge, sprawling stone cities, monumental architecture. But underneath all that grandeur, it was a world completely engulfed in spiritual darkness and disbelief. So I want you to just let this question sink in for a second. Imagine standing entirely alone for 950 years. Seriously, try to wrap your head around that. Picture a solitary figure, radiating this warm, calm light of truth, just standing totally steadfast against an entire massive civilization that is completely rejecting him. It's a scale of dedication that, honestly, our modern minds can barely even comprehend. Like, how did the world even get to a place where only one man was speaking the truth?
Well, let's look at Section 1, A World in Darkness, and the Descent into Idolatry.
Let's dive into this ancient, pre-flood civilization. You've got these vast, sprawling stone cities just baking under a harsh desert sun. But the real darkness wasn't the shadows in the alleys. It was this deep moral and spiritual decay. And historically, the sources show us this fascinating, yet truly tragic psychological progression. It actually started out super innocent. Generation 1, they just drew pictures of good, holy men who had passed away, literally just to remember how pious they were. That's it. But then Generation 2 comes along. Those pictures became statues, kept in homes and places of worship to bring blessings. By the time the third generation rolled around, that original innocent intent was completely gone. Sons saw their fathers revering these statues, and they just took it a step further. They started prostrating, sacrificing, and fully worshiping these carved stones. They even gave them names, right? Wad, Suwa, Yahuth, Yauk, and Nas. So what started as innocent reverence slowly and dangerously morphed into full-blown idol worship. Now, right into the middle of this deep darkness, a light was sent, and that light was Prophet Noah. Our sources describe him as incredibly pious, highly intelligent, and just fiercely compassionate. He was that guy known for giving the most truthful, sincere advice. He stood there like a warm, unwavering light in the shadows. He was chosen to warn his people, to basically try and wake them up and call them back to worshiping the one true Creator before a terrible punishment hit.
Which brings us to Section 2, 950 years of patience, the struggle.
950 years. For nearly a millennium, Nuh faced absolutely relentless mockery. I mean, the sheer uncompromising reality of his mission is staggering, isn't it? He didn't just try this for a few weeks or a couple of years or even a normal human lifetime. He stood in the public squares, he knocked on their doors, he called to them day and night. And what did they do? The people would literally stick their fingers in their ears and pull their clothes over their heads just so they wouldn't have to see or hear him. They literally called him a madman. And yet, for 9.5 centuries, that light of patience never flickered. He just never lost hope.
And the divide among the people during all this was just stark. You had the rich, the proud, the city elites. They looked at Noah and scoffed. They literally argued, hey, if your message was actually any good, we, the elite, would have gotten it first. They even demanded he drive away his followers. And who were those followers? In total contrast, it was the poor, the lowly, the laborers who worked with their hands. These humble, sincere believers were the only ones gathering near Noah because they recognized the profound truth in what he was saying.
All right, moving to Section 3, the ship on the sand, the divine command.
So after 950 years, the skies darkened. A subtle divine light descended. Allah revealed to Nuh that no more of his people were going to believe. The time for warnings was officially over. A massive promise was about to be fulfilled, and Nuh was commanded to do something completely unprecedented. Just picture this scene with me. The heavy, echoing thwack of a hammer hitting wood, ringing out as Nuh starts building a colossal vessel. And where is he building it? Right in the middle of a dry, landlocked plain. There is absolutely no sea in sight, just miles and miles of scorching desert sand. So naturally, the townspeople are walking by this enormous construction site, pointing, laughing, and just shaking their heads at him. They were hurling insults, mocking him non-stop. They'd say things like, "What is this, Nuh? Since when did you become a carpenter? Is it going to sail in the sand, or are oxen going to pull it?" But you know what Noah did? He just stayed silent and focused. His weathered hands kept tirelessly working that rough wood, showing absolute, unwavering obedience. He didn't need to actually see the water to know the storm was coming. His faith in the divine command was just absolute.
Which leads us right into section 4. The great flood begins. The heavens open.
The promise was fulfilled. Imagine the distant rumble of thunder cracking the sky. That harsh, dusty sunlight gets instantly swallowed up by terrifying deep blues and grays as this massive cosmic storm erupts. The sources actually describe the sky turning into a sieve, just totally unable to hold back the water. The heavens literally opened up, the earth cracked apart, and water started gushing up from the ground itself. But amidst all this terrifying chaos, by divine mercy, a very specific, orderly group boarded that massive wooden vessel. The sincere believers, the exact same ones who'd been mocked as lowly, stepped aboard. And they were joined by pairs of every single animal, male and female, and pairs of every bird. So while the arrogant, proud world outside was scrambling in sheer terror, this tiny, perfectly preserved ecosystem of faith and life just floated safely upwards on the rising tide.
Now, section 5, the sun on the mountain, a tragic choice. Right in the middle of all this salvation, there was a deeply, deeply personal tragedy. Because remember, Noah wasn't just a prophet, he was a father. And one of his very own sons completely refused to believe. And now he was trapped in the path of this rising destruction. While the ark floated securely, literally rising up with these massive mountain-sized waves, Noah's son was desperately scrambling up a physical mountain peak. He was relying entirely on the physical world to save him from a divine decree. Imagine Noah leaning over the edge of the ark, calling out into the howling wind, just begging his son to come aboard, but the son shouted back that the mountain would protect him from the water.
And Noah called back with this utterly heartbreaking truth. He said, "Today there is no protector from Allah's command except for the one to whom he shows mercy." And literally seconds later, a massive wave crashed between them and the son was swept away. Wow. This exchange just hammers home such a universal truth, doesn't it? Salvation was based entirely on faith and sincerity, not your bloodline, not your wealth, and for sure not the height of the mountain you tried to climb.
Finally, section 6. A new morning dawns. The legacy of faith.
So eventually, the raging waters achieved their purpose. Those dark cosmic storm clouds finally broke, and this brilliant golden sun rose over a vast mirror-still ocean. The heavy rain stopped, the waters began to recede, and by the will of the Creator, peace actually returned to a completely cleansed earth, and the colossal ark safely came to rest on Mount Judy. The doors finally opened. The believers and all the animals stepped out onto dry, refreshed land, taking a deep breath of a literal new dawn. Nuh looked out over this pristine, green new world, a world that was saved entirely because of his incredible patience and trust.
And this brilliantly illustrates the continuum of this whole message. Nuh wasn't just some isolated event in history. His profound iman, his absolute rock-solid faith, it laid the spiritual foundation for future generations. We see this in the sources. Later messengers like Musa, who would eventually part the sea, and Yunus, who would call out from the belly of the whale. They all faced these immense, overwhelming trials involving water. And they all drew on that exact same well of absolute trust in the divine that Nuh exemplified. So as we wrap up, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. It's so easy to look at this and just think, oh, that's just ancient history. But if Prophet Nuh could stand firm, holding on to his faith for 950 years against a whole civilization that ruthlessly mocked him, and if he could trust the process through a cosmic storm that literally swallowed the earth, well, what's stopping us from holding on to our faith through the much smaller storms of our daily lives today? Take that thought with you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking knowledge.